Welcome to the Sissy Training Institute, a fictional academy devoted to feminine refinement, etiquette, and posture. Our stories are works of fiction, created to inspire confidence, grace, and self-expression. But every lesson shared here, from behavioral training to beauty routines, is real and empowering. Viewer discretion is advised. The morning sunlight rested gently over the manor, warm and soft as I dusted the carved edge of the drawing room mantel. Everything felt peaceful, quiet, until I heard the familiar sound of Mistress's heels entering behind me. I curtsied immediately, bowing my head. "Lily," she said in that calm, beautiful tone that always made my heart flutter with both devotion and fear. "We will be receiving guests this afternoon." I kept my head lowered. "Yes, Mistress." She moved toward her writing desk, her presence filling the room with authority. "Lady Ashcombe, Mrs. Weatherbury, and Miss Rosalind will be visiting for tea. They are refined women with very high expectations and equally sharp tongues." My stomach tightened. I had heard their names whispered by the staff, the ladies of the Rose Circle, elegant, wealthy, effortlessly poised, and famously critical. Mistress continued, "You will serve them alone." I felt my breath catch. Alone. 3 aristocratic women, all eyes on me, all poised to judge the smallest tremble of my hands. And I would be the only maid in the room. "Yes, Mistress," I whispered. She stepped closer, lifting my chin gently with a gloved hand. Her eyes were calm but intensely focused. "Your uniform is newly tailored. Your posture has improved. Today will show me whether that refinement has reached your mind, not only your skirt hem." "Yes, Mistress," I repeated, voice barely steady. She released my chin and gestured toward the tea salon. "You will prepare the room precisely. The lace cloth must be centered, the porcelain should gleam, the pastries should be arranged like a painting, not a plate." I nodded quickly, committing each instruction to memory. "And Lily," she added softly, though the softness held unmistakable warning. "You will not blush at their gossip, you will not lower your gaze unless serving, and no matter what they say, your smile will remain gentle." I breathed out slowly, forcing my shoulders to stay relaxed. "I understand, Mistress." She turned away, her gown whispering along the polished floor. "The ladies will arrive at 3. I expect you ready at 2:30. "Yes, Mistress." Just as she reached the door, she paused and glanced over her shoulder. A faint, approving smile touched her lips. "You will do well today, my dear, if you remember who you serve." When she left the room, I exhaled with trembling composure. My heart fluttered like a bird in my chest, terrified, yet determined. Today would test every lesson I had ever learned. The world had seen me walk through town, but now it would see if I could stand under the eyes of the highest ladies in society. And I knew one thing: I could not, would not, let Mistress down. Mistress had given her instructions, and now the entire weight of the afternoon rested in my hands. At precisely 1:30, I entered the tea salon, a bright, airy room overlooking the rose garden, with tall windows that filtered the sunlight into soft, golden ribbons. The room already smelled faintly of polished wood, lemon oil, and freshly cut flowers. I curtsied instinctively to the empty space, as Mistress had taught me. Respect is a habit, not an audience. The lace tablecloth was folded neatly over my arm, imported, delicate, a sheer white with embroidered vines winding along the border. Mistress always insisted it be placed with absolute symmetry. I laid it over the round table, smoothing each edge with slow, gliding motions so the fabric fell without a single ripple. The lace caught the sunlight like frost. Next came the porcelain tea set, Mistress's finest. Pale pink with gold filigree, each piece whisper-light. I polished the teapot with a linen cloth until its surface gleamed, then arranged the cups in a perfect crescent. The faint sound of porcelain clicking gently together filled the room. A quiet ASMR rhythm of elegance and order. On the sideboard, I arranged the pastries Mistress had requested. Miniature strawberry tarts, lemon-glazed biscuits, sugared rose petals, warm scones with vanilla butter. Each piece was placed like artwork, not food. The ladies of the Rose Circle were known for noticing everything, even the alignment of a spoon. I checked the clock. Nearly 2. My heart raced. I reheated the silver kettle and poured a small amount of boiling water into the teapot to warm it. The steam curled upward, brushing my face with a soft, fragrant warmth that reminded me of early mornings in the manor kitchen. Then I arranged the final touches. A vase of white lilies, a bowl of fresh lemon slices, a pristine napkin folded like a swan. Every detail, every placement, every polished surface was a promise. I will not disappoint Mistress today. Before leaving the room, I stepped back and studied everything. The table glowed softly, the silver gleamed, the lace lay flawless, and my reflection in the pane of the window looked still, poised, ready. I smoothed my apron, pressed both palms against the fabric, and whispered, "Grace, no matter who watches," because soon everyone would. At precisely 3 o'clock, the manor changed. Not loudly, no sudden noise, no commotion, but with a shift in the air, the way a room feels different moments before a storm breaks. I stood just inside the tea salon, hands folded neatly in front of my apron, heart fluttering like a ribbon in the breeze. The table was perfect, the porcelain gleamed, the pastries looked as though they belonged in a painting. And then I heard it. The soft, refined murmur of women's voices drifting down the hallway. Their footsteps followed, elegant, measured, unmistakably confident. The ladies of the Rose Circle carried themselves with a presence that announced them before they ever reached a doorway. Mistress appeared first, gliding gracefully beside them as they approached. I immediately curtsied, deeply, slowly, letting the skirt of my uniform fan outward just as I'd practiced. My voice stayed soft, steady. "Good afternoon, Mistress. Good afternoon, my ladies." Lady Ashcombe entered first, tall, poised, wrapped in pale lavender silk. Her eyes drifted over me with the delicate sharpness of someone trained to detect flaws at 20 paces. She gave a soft, knowing smile. "Ah, so this is the little maid," she murmured. Behind her came Mrs. Weatherbury, shorter, but with a presence like polished marble. She carried a small fan which she flicked gently as she watched me. Her gaze lingered on my skirt hem, the apron bow, the lace headband. "Lovely uniform," she said sweetly. "Quite precious." And finally Miss Rosalind, the youngest, all soft curls and pale blue ribbons. She looked at me with a mixture of curiosity and mischief, the kind that suggested she enjoyed watching others squirm. Mistress stepped aside to let them enter, her expression serene but sharp enough to warn me. "Hold your composure, Lily." I kept my gaze just slightly lowered, respectful, not timid, while the ladies took their seats. Their dresses rustled like whispers as they settled around the table. Lady Ashcombe lifted her chin. "Such a charming room," she said, though her eyes were firmly on me, not the decor. Mrs. Weatherbury leaned toward Miss Rosalind, murmuring just loud enough to be overheard. "She's a pretty little thing, isn't she?" Miss Rosalind giggled softly. "She looks terrified." Heat flushed through my cheeks, but I held my smile, gentle, controlled, exactly as Mistress had instructed. Mistress stepped behind me, her presence a reassuring anchor. "Lily has prepared the tea salon perfectly," she said with quiet pride. "She will serve you this afternoon." Their eyes turned to me in unison, 3 elegant women, 3 silent assessments. Lady Ashcombe nodded once, graceful but commanding. "Very well, child, show us what you can do." My heart quickened, My hands tingled, my breath steadied into something slow and deliberate. This was the moment I had been preparing for all day. I curtsied again, flawless, deep, elegant, and whispered, "Yes, my lady." And with that, the trial began. The room had settled into a gentle hush, broken only by the soft rustle of silk skirts and the delicate chime of bracelets as the ladies arranged themselves around the table. Their perfumes, lavender, rosewater, and something sharp and jasmine-like, blended into a cloud of aristocratic sweetness that made the air feel thick and heavy. Mistress stood behind them, serene and silent, her presence reminding me that every breath, every gesture, every footstep had to be precise. I stepped forward with the teapot, hands steady, posture lifted just enough to show refinement without stiffness. The porcelain felt warm against my palms, reassuring and terrifying at the same time. Lady Ashcombe lifted her chin first. "You may pour, child." I curtsied, then moved to her right side, never the left, as Mistress had taught me, and tilted the pot with slow, deliberate grace. The soft stream of tea flowed smoothly, the faint shh of liquid filling the cup echoing like a little heartbeat in the still room. She hummed softly, watching me. "Steady hands? Good." My pulse fluttered, but I maintained my smile. Next was Mrs. Weatherbury. She held her cup with the practiced elegance of someone born into etiquette. As I poured, she gave a soft, amused laugh. "Such a nervous little thing," she whispered to Miss Rosalind, just loud enough for me to hear. I felt the heat rush into my cheeks, but Mistress's voice brushed over my shoulder, quiet and firm. "Do not let your expression change." I didn't. Miss Rosalind's turn came last. She smiled at me sweetly, too sweetly. "Just a touch of sugar, please," she said. I added a spoonful. The tiny clink of silver on porcelain rang louder than it should have. Miss Rosalind giggled into her hand. I inhaled very slowly, then smiled as though I were carved from calm porcelain. Once each cup was poured, I moved the sugar bowl and lemon slices around the table, ensuring each lady received the same gentle bow and soft-spoken, "Of course, my lady." As I placed a lemon wedge on Miss Rosalind's saucer, she whispered, "You really are adorable. I would shake in your heels." Mistress gave her a light, knowing look, a reminder of decorum, before turning her attention back to me. "Lily," she said softly, "serve the pastries." I lifted the tray with both hands, elbows tucked, back straight, chin lowered gracefully. The pastries sparkled with sugar under the sunlight, delicate little sculptures of fruit and glaze. The ladies selected their choices one by one, each offering a different reaction. Lady Ashcombe: "Perfectly arranged." Mrs. Weatherbury: "Delightful." Miss Rosalind: "Oh, these are precious, just like her." Each remark was a thread tugging at my composure, but none of them broke it. When the last tart had been taken, I stepped back, holding the tray at my waist. My heart beat fast, but my hands remained absolutely still. Mistress met my eyes for just a moment, and gave the faintest nod. Approval. Pride washed through me so softly it felt like a warm breeze. But the trial wasn't over yet. The ladies had begun to talk, and soon their attention would turn to me again. The salon had settled into a gentle hum, not loud, but filled with the soft clinking of cups, the rustle of silk dresses, and the delicate murmur of well-bred women enjoying their tea. I stood near the sideboard, tray held lightly at my waist, waiting for the slightest gesture from any of the ladies. My posture was perfect, my hands steady, my breath slow and quiet. But my heart, oh, it fluttered. Lady Ashcombe was the first to speak. She sipped her tea gracefully, then turned her gaze toward me with the same casual precision a jeweler uses when examining gemstones. "Your maid is remarkably well trained. she said to Mistress. Her stillness is almost artistic. I curtsied silently. Mistress smiled faintly. She learns quickly when properly guided. Mrs. Weatherbury tapped her fan against her chin thoughtfully. Tell me, child, she said, directing her attention to me. Do you always serve so quietly, or is it just because we're terrifying? Miss Rosalind giggled behind her teacup. My cheeks warmed. I bowed my head respectfully. It is my duty to be quiet, my lady. Mistress teaches me that silence allows the room to shine. Lady Ashcombe let out a soft, approving, well spoken for a maid. Miss Rosalind leaned forward, fascinated. And do you enjoy serving? Her eyes sparkled with playful curiosity. Mistress observed me from behind her guests, her expression calm but impossibly sharp, watching my every word. Yes, my lady, I replied. Service is how I show gratitude and care. Mrs. Weatherbury exchanged a quick look with Lady Ashcombe, a look that said polite, correct, impressive. But Miss Rosalind wasn't finished. How do you stay so still? She asked. I would shake terribly if 3 women stared at me while I poured tea. Another warm flush crept into my cheeks. Madame Lefebvre taught me stillness, my lady, I said softly. She says that the uniform corrects the body, but only if the maid lets it. Lady Ashcombe gave a small, amused sigh. Oh, that tailor! She has opinions on everything. Mrs. Weatherbury chuckled, and apparently she's passed some of them on. Miss Rosalind pointed subtly toward my posture. She looks like she's holding her breath. Mistress stepped in then, her tone regal but gentle. Lily stands that way out of discipline, not fear. She has learned to hold herself with grace, even when she feels nervous. My heart caught. Mistress wasn't just observing me, she was defending me. The ladies reacted softly. Lady Ashcombe. Admirable. Mrs. Weatherbury. Precise. Miss Rosalind, smiling sweetly. Brave. It took every bit of training not to let my smile widen. But then Miss Rosalind held out her empty teacup, clearly a test. More, please. I stepped forward slowly, lifted the pot gracefully, tilted it with perfect control. The stream poured silently into her cup. Miss Rosalind's gaze stayed fixed on my hands, looking for tremble, error, weakness. There was none. When I stepped back, curtsying, Mistress gave the smallest, proudest nod. Barely visible, but I felt it like sunlight warming my entire chest. The ladies continued their conversation, but their attention kept drifting to me, assessing, discussing, praising in their own quiet, aristocratic way. I had passed the first half of the trial. But a maid's true test always comes unexpectedly. And mine was coming very soon. The ladies' conversation drifted around the room like perfumed smoke, soft, elegant, deceptively harmless. I stood attentively near the sideboard, tray in hand, watching for any gesture that might signal a need. Mistress remained silent behind them, her presence a steady reminder of expectations I had to meet. Lady Ashcombe lifted her cup delicately. This blend is exquisite, Mistress. Subtle, floral. Perfect for the season. Mistress nodded graciously. Lily prepares the infusion. All 3 ladies turned toward me at once. Heat flickered through my chest, but I maintained my composure, bowing my head softly. Miss Rosalind smiled. Oh, she really is precious. May we trouble her for another slice of lemon? Of course, my lady. I stepped forward, lifted the small silver tongs and reached toward the lemon bowl. Every muscle trained, every motion careful and serene. But as I lifted the slice, a tiny bead of tea from the condensation on the tongs slipped free. One single drop. It struck the saucer. Click. Not loud, not messy, barely noticeable. But in a salon built on perfection, it rang like a bell. Mrs. Weatherbury's eyebrow arched. Miss Rosalind hid a tiny smile behind her cup. Lady Ashcombe's lips pressed together, not in anger, but in sharp awareness. My heart thudded once, hard. I inhaled, steadied my breath, lowered my shoulders gracefully. And with the calmest movement I could manage, I dabbed the saucer with a crisp napkin, flawlessly, silently, elegantly. Then I placed the lemon slice upon it without a tremble. The ladies watched. Mistress watched. I stepped back, bowed my head, and said softly, "My apologies, my lady." Lady Ashcombe studied me for a long moment. Then she spoke, gently, but with authority. "Handled well." A warmth of relief and pride spread through me like honey. Mistress's gaze softened, her approval subtle but unmistakable. Miss Rosalind giggled lightly. "Oh, I rather liked that. It shows she's human, but she corrected it beautifully." Mrs. Weatherbury fanned herself lightly. "Grace under pressure is rarer than perfection." Mistress spoke then, her voice calm and smooth. "And that is precisely what Lily is learning." Her words wrapped around me like silk. The ladies resumed their conversation, and I returned to my place near the sideboard, heart still racing, but posture serene, breath steady, mind focused. A single mistake had appeared, but I had turned it into a lesson, and Mistress had seen it. When the last of the pastries had been enjoyed and the teacups settled back onto their saucers, the atmosphere in the room softened. The ladies shifted into casual conversation, gentle gossip, stories of other estates, the latest fashions. But their eyes drifted to me every so often. Not with mockery anymore, not with amusement, but with something closer to respect. Lady Ashcombe dabbed her lips with her napkin and inclined her head. "Thank you for the service, little one. It was quite refined." My heart fluttered. I curtsied. Mrs. Weatherbury closed her fan with a soft snap. A minor wobble, but handled with grace. "You recovered well." I bowed again, grateful. Miss Rosalind smiled warmly. "You did wonderfully, truly. Your little mistake made you human. Your recovery made you elegant." I felt warmth fill my chest at her words. Mistress gave a graceful smile to her guests. "Lily takes her training seriously." I stood behind the table as the ladies rose from their chairs. Their gowns rustled like soft music as they moved toward the doorway. Each offered Mistress a polite nod, then one more passing glance at me. This time light, approving, almost sisterly. And then they were gone. The moment the salon door closed, silence settled like a blanket over the room. Mistress remained by the window, gazing at the soft afternoon light before turning her head toward me. "Lily." I stepped forward immediately and curtsied deeply. Mistress moved closer, each step deliberate, elegant, the kind of movement I longed to emulate. "You held yourself with dignity today," she said quietly. "Your mistake was small. Your recovery was exemplary. That is what matters." I felt my breath tremble in relief. "Thank you, Mistress." She studied me for a moment, not with harshness, but with thoughtful pride. "A maid is not defined by her flaws," she continued softly. "She is defined by how she corrects them." I lowered my gaze with reverence. "Yes, Mistress." Mistress stepped past me, trailing her fingers across the lace tablecloth I had smoothed earlier. "Your training is bearing fruit. The ladies saw that, I saw that." My chest warmed, full and grateful. Then she paused at the doorway, turning her head just enough for me to see the faintest smile. "Today, Lily, you truly served." The words settled into me like sunlight, warm, deep, and unforgettable. I curtsied once more, heart glowing, as Mistress left the salon. and when the door closed, I allowed myself a small, private smile. I had passed the trial, I had held my poise, and for the first time, I felt like a true maid of the manor.